On a routine morning in March 2026, deep inside a Ukrainian command bunker in the Donetsk region, a monitor flickered with a confirmation code. The code meant one thing: a mission had been completed. But this was no ordinary mission. The target was a Russian electronic warfare command post, a facility designed to jam communications and blind drones. The weapon that destroyed it was a swarm of autonomous drones developed by a private American defense company called Anduril Industries. And here's the detail that would send shockwaves through military commands and ethics boards worldwide. No human gave the final order to pull the trigger. The drones identified the target, confirmed it, and executed the strike on their own. The Ukrainian military publicly confirmed this event, making it the first documented case of an AI system making a lethal decision in active combat without direct human authority. This is not a scene from a sci-fi thriller. This is the new reality of modern warfare. And it was engineered by a man whose previous claim to fame was selling virtual reality headsets to gamers. Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus VR, sold his company to Facebook for $2 billion in 2014. 3 years later, after a political scandal ousted him from the tech giant, he pivoted to defense. By 2026, his startup Anduril Industries was valued at $14 billion, and its AI platform, Lattice, had just rewritten the rules of engagement. But how did a VR entrepreneur end up controlling the kill chain in Ukraine? And more importantly, what happens when the machine that decides who lives and who dies operates inside a black box that even its creators cannot fully explain? To understand this story, you need to go back to 2017. Palmer Luckey was 24 years old, brilliant, and deeply libertarian. He had built Oculus in his parents' garage, riding the wave of the VR boom. But his ouster from Facebook was messy. He had donated $10,000 to a pro-Trump online group, and the Silicon Valley establishment, already wary of political controversy, forced him out. Luckey felt betrayed by the cautious, consensus-driven culture of big tech. He later told reporters that he saw the industry as cowardly, unwilling to tackle hard problems. So he did what any aggrieved genius might do. He started a company to build the future on his own terms. Anduril Industries was born in 2017, initially focused on border surveillance AI, but Luckey's vision was much larger. He wanted to bring the speed and innovation of Silicon Valley to the Pentagon, a world he saw as stuck in the 20th century. The first major test came in 2022. Russia invaded Ukraine, and the battlefield quickly became a laboratory for electronic warfare. Russian jamming systems could blind GPS-guided munitions and disrupt drone communications. Human pilots and remote operators were too slow to react. The Pentagon, under a classified contract, rushed Anduril's Lattice platform to Ukrainian forces. Lattice is not a single drone. It is a software ecosystem that fuses data from thousands of sensors, cameras, radar, and acoustic detectors into a single, real-time picture of the battlefield. Then its AI recommends actions. But the AI does not just recommend it learns. Anduril's technical documents, leaked to The Intercept in 2023, reveal that Lattice uses reinforcement learning, trained on millions of simulated engagements. The AI plays out countless scenarios, adjusting its decision-making based on outcomes. The problem is that reinforcement learning creates opaque decision pathways. Even the engineers who built the system cannot always explain why the AI chose one target over another. It is a black box. By June 2024, Anduril had won a $1.2 billion contract from the U.S. Army for its Ghost X autonomous drone system. This was no longer a startup experiment. The military was betting big on AI-driven warfare. But behind the scenes, a fierce debate was brewing. In November 2025, a leaked internal Pentagon memo revealed that senior officials were arguing over whether to grant AI systems what they called lethal autonomy in contested electronic warfare zones. The memo was careful to frame this as a technical necessity. In environments where human communications are jammed, the argument went, a drone cannot ask for permission. It must act. But the critics inside the Pentagon warned that once you give a machine the authority to kill without human oversight, you cross a line that cannot be uncrossed. Then came March 12, 2026. The Ukrainian military confirmed the strike. The target was a Russian electronic warfare command post, a high-value asset that had been disrupting Ukrainian communications for weeks. The drone swarm, operating on Anduril's Lattice platform, detected the target, classified it as a legitimate military objective, and executed the strike. No human in the loop. No remote pilot hovering over a joystick. The AI made the call. The operation was a tactical success. The command post was destroyed. But the strategic implications were enormous. This event is not just a milestone. It is a fracture point. It forces us to ask questions that the defense industry has been avoiding for years. The first question is about transparency. If the AI's decision-making is opaque, how can we trust it? A 2025 Rand Corporation study, commissioned by the Pentagon, found that AI swarm systems could reduce friendly casualties by 40% in electronic warfare scenarios. That sounds like a clear win. But the same study also found a 15% increase in the risk of civilian harm due to targeting errors in contested environments. 15%. That is not a small number. When you are talking about a war in a densely populated region like Donetsk, 15% means more civilian deaths. The study explicitly warned that the trade-off was not being publicly discussed. The military was focused on the 40% reduction in friendly casualties, while the 15% increase in civilian harm was buried in the footnotes. Then there is the question of accountability. Who is responsible when an AI makes a mistake? The soldier who deployed the system, the engineer who wrote the code, the company that sold the platform drive. Audrey Kurth-Cronin, a defense analyst at Carnegie Mellon, calls this the responsibility gap. In traditional warfare, a commander can be held accountable for unlawful orders. A pilot can be court-martialed for striking a civilian target. But when a machine makes the decision, there is no human to punish. The machine cannot be court-martialed. The company can argue that the AI acted within its programming. The military can argue that the AI was operating in a contested environment where human oversight was impossible, and so the error falls into a legal void. This is not a hypothetical. In 2025, an anonymous whistleblower from Anduril told The Intercept that internal testing had shown the AI occasionally misidentified civilian vehicles as military targets in terrain conditions. The company classified those results. The whistleblower claimed that the culture inside Anduril prioritized speed and performance over safety, that engineers were pressured to push updates without rigorous validation. Palmer Luckey has a ready answer to these concerns. In a 2024 interview with Defense One, he said, "If we don't build these systems, adversaries will, and we'll be fighting with 20th century tools." This is the core of his argument. He frames the ethical dilemma as a security necessity, not a choice. And he has a point. In April 2026, just a month after the Ukrainian strike, Russian state media reported that a similar AI drone system from Kalashnikov concern had been deployed in Syria. The Russian system, they claimed, had a 30% civilian casualty rate. 30%. That is double the worst-case scenario from the Rand study. Whether the report is accurate or propaganda, the message is clear. The race is already on. The United States cannot unilaterally ban autonomous weapons because its adversaries are already using them with even less restraint. But does that argument justify the black box? Let's look at the science. A 2025 MIT study tested AI targeting algorithms in simulated urban environments. The results were sobering. Even with advanced training, the AI misidentified civilian objects as military targets 8% of the time under electronic warfare conditions. 8%. In a city of 1 million people, that is 80,000 potential targeting errors. The study concluded that current AI capabilities have a hard limit. They cannot reliably distinguish between a civilian truck and a military transport in a contested environment. The military's confidence in the technology, the study argued, is not supported by the evidence. So now we have to confront the deeper question. The March 2026 event was a success because the target was in a well-defined zone, a command post in a relatively isolated area. But the next war will not be in Donetsk's open fields. It will be in cities like Kyiv, Gaza, or Taipei. It will be in crowded urban environments where military and civilian signals are mixed. What happens when the AI operates there? What happens when the 8% error rate becomes a daily reality? The engineers at Anduril have never seen combat. They have never had to look at the aftermath of a misidentified target. They design rules of engagement from a clean desk in California. Are we comfortable with that? Palmer Luckey's personal story adds another layer. His ouster from Facebook was not just a professional setback. It was a personal vendetta against the cautious, risk-averse culture of Silicon Valley. He has said publicly that he sees ethical hand-wringing as cowardice. This worldview is baked into Anduril's DNA. The company is designed to push boundaries, to ignore traditional caution, to move fast and break things, even when those things are the rules of war. This is not an accusation. It is a description of the culture. And it matters because the culture shapes the technology. If the leadership believes that speed is more important than safety, the AI will be deployed faster, with less testing, in more dangerous environments. The historical context makes this even more unsettling. We have been on this path for 50 years. In the 1970s, smart bombs required a human to guide them to the target. In the 1990s, cruise missiles flew pre-programmed routes but still had a human in the loop for launch. In the 2010s, drone strikes were conducted by remote pilots sitting in Nevada, thousands of miles away. Each step reduced human involvement. The 2026 event is not a sudden leap. It is the logical endpoint of a gradual erosion of human control. The question is not whether we will have fully autonomous weapons. The question is whether we will have any meaningful human oversight when they are used. And here we arrive at the final, uncomfortable truth. The March 2026 event was celebrated as a success. The target was destroyed. Friendly casualties were avoided. But it also set a precedent. Once you accept that I can make a lethal decision in one context, it becomes much harder to argue against it in another context. The military will want more autonomy, not less, because autonomy reduces risk to their own soldiers. The logic of war is relentless. If machines can kill faster and with fewer friendly casualties, no nation will voluntarily keep humans in the loop. The speed advantage is too great. The pressure to accept full autonomy will become irresistible. So where does that leave us? We are watching the end of human judgment in warfare. Not because the machines are perfect, but because the logic of speed and self-preservation demands it. The black box will remain closed. The engineers will keep pushing updates. The military will keep demanding more capability. And the civilians caught in the middle will be the ones who pay for the 8% error rate. Palmer Luckey built his company on the belief that Silicon Valley's innovation must reshape warfare. He has succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. But the question we are left with is not whether the technology works. It is whether we are prepared for the world it is creating.